welcome back to the Irish Racing YouTube channel. Another episode of Formscan in association with Tony Beck, coming a day earlier this week because we're here to preview the Cheltenham December meeting. So we're here on Thursday rather than Friday to cover the 2 days, and I'm delighted to be joined by Johnny Ward to talk through the action. And we were just saying kind of before there, Johnny, plenty going on this weekend. A good card in Cheltenham, I suppose, as always.
Good card in Cheltenham, Emma, yeah. Just before we came on air, we were talking about the beginner's chase at Fairyhouse, which starts off the action, I think, at like 11:30 on Saturday morning. Like, this is like, it almost looks like an Arkle at Cheltenham. It's so strong. And these are just Willie Mullins runners. I do feel Irish trainers are missing a trick a bit, not running more horses at Cheltenham, because, you know, you're looking at the 150 there on the big race kind of on Friday with, you know, 57 sterling to the winner, and a small field really, you know, 8 runners in a staying handicap chase, no Irish runners in it, and you know, you can go over there and you can kind of avoid Willie Mullins, and to an extent you can maybe avoid Gordon Elliott and Gavin Cromwell, but we do have some Irish runners. So I feel it's kind of strange that with the prize money situation that we don't send a few more over for the handicaps, but some interesting Irish runners nonetheless. But yeah, just I suppose the ground easing out a bit, like, as you see some of the big trainers are definitely coming out in force now, and some cracking horses. Really looking forward to seeing Margeburn in that race on Saturday.
Yeah, that is some beater's chase, a cracker. But yeah, you were kind of mentioning the 150. We may as well go straight into that, I suppose. And I kind of echo your thoughts there. I was kind of surprised there wasn't a few more Irish horses across the Cape, because we saw that for the first couple of meetings in Cheltenham so far this year. It's been kind of littered with Irish horses, entries and all that. But yeah, no Irish horses in the first. We'll talk about the 150, the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 coming soon handicap chase. It's a strange name for a race. I presume someone in Cheltenham must have a connection to that film or something like that. But it's over 3 mile 2. I suppose it's a bit of a kind of a replay of last week's cancelled Beecher's Chase at Aintree. A few of the kind of main protagonists who were due to run there show up here again, and it's definitely topped by Chianti Classico, who's around 7-4, 2-1 shot. King Turgeon, another one who was supposed to go to Aintree last week, he's in there around 130, and Ballygriffin Cottage for the Skeletons, he's around 15-2. They're the kind of main ones in the betting anyway. Johnny, I suppose Chianti Classico, probably a good place to start here. Kim Bailey's horses are flying, and he's definitely a horse with an upward profile, isn't he?
Definitely an upward profile. Yeah, 7 going on 8, and he's just kind of a grand straightforward horse who can go out and make the run and stays very well. I do feel, just looking at this race going through it, Chambard was one of those horses that was due to run at Aintree, you know, and probably he's probably one of those horses that would have been better with the test that he was going to get at Aintree. He beat Cocoa Beach in that race at Aintree last year. Obviously, that race was called off. We'll talk about Cocoa Beach later on, but just a lot of horses in this race will be very, very forward. I find Dan Skelton horses kind of hard to predict. When you see what he's capable of doing at March, I think it's fairly obvious that Dan Skelton really does prioritise the Cheltenham Festival, and I wish more trainers actually did that in Britain. But anyway, Ballygriffin Cottage was 9-1 the last day behind a Buffalo Soldier. That was obviously a race that was marred by a Buffalo Soldier afterwards, but he seemed to be travelling quite well when coming down, and he's other run. I think one other run at Cheltenham he ran very well earlier on in his life. I'm just going with him on the basis of there's so much pace in this race. I mean, you're looking at the newest one will probably be up there. He could be slightly overpriced. Well, he taken on for the lead the last day behind Transmission. Now he'd have to reverse form with Java Point from that race, who'll also probably be handy as well. The likes of King Turgeon will be up there as well, and maybe even Chianti Classico. You have to feel, I think, he'll be very happy to lead or make the run, and Ballygriffin Cottage for Harry Skelton will be able to tip away. As I say, Emma, I'm just not sure of calling the Skelton Yard at times in terms of how they train their horses with the view to, you know, because they do seem to come alive later on in the season, particularly at Cheltenham. But I feel Ballygriffin Cottage, I think there's an angle to back him because there's so much obvious pace to the race, even over the 3 miles 2 at Cheltenham on the new course.
Yeah, for sure. The Skeletons can definitely plot one out, and probably no harm checking the market in the morning as well to see what kind of way it's reacting to Ballygriffin Cottage. But can see the angle for that. To be honest, look, I'm kind of finding it hard to shy away from Chianti Classico. I did actually fancy Chambard. You mentioned him. I fancied him to maybe win the Beecher last week if it was on, like you said, the test heavy ground, but totally different ball game here. Look, Chianti Classico, I think he's ultra consistent. I think he's only been out of the first 2-3 times in his whole life. I thought his win in Ascot was very taking, up £5, so that doesn't seem too harsh at all. Like, he's a horse who's kind of able to equip himself in Grade 1 company. Like, he didn't disgrace himself at all in the Mild May Chase last year behind I Know the Way You're Thinking. So look, I think he's going in the right direction. Kim Bailey's horse, as kind of mentioned it early, 25% strike rate in the last 3 weeks. So I don't think there's too many negatives about him there. So I'm happy enough to stick with the favourite in the first. But we'll go on to the next. I should have mentioned we're going through the ITV races on Friday and Saturday at Cheltenham. So that's how we picked the running order for today's show. But we'll go on to the next. And now the 2:25, the Unibet middle distance chase veterans race over the 2 mile for Shake 'em Up Harry. He won the plate at the festival last year. He's in here, one of the market leaders. Dashel Drasher is another old favourite. These veteran chases, Johnny, I suppose we get to see the old boys keep going. And this, like, for a veterans chase, there's some fairly high class horses in here who aren't really over the hill yet, I'd say.
Yeah, I suppose this is a race where you're thinking, oh, should there be more Irish horses? But like the prize money is 20 grand, and it's actually, like as you say, it's very competitive. Eldorado Allen, Shake 'em Up Harry, like these are horses that we know well. And as much as like they're getting on, there's still only 10 going on 11. I think the veterans program is actually very good. Like it can be a very good incentive to buy a horse because you have to be 10 or going on. But if you're a 10-year-old, you can run in these races basically until you retire. So I'm going to go with Seddon though. Like I can't really remember why he didn't go to Cheltenham in March, and having obviously won at the festival when he was 20-1. He was very impressive at Cheltenham last year. In terms of 2024, I can't remember exactly what happened with him, but I was at trying to think. I was at Listowel when he beat Ascending. Finn Buckley rode him that day. He gave him a kind of a no-nonsense ride. He's very, very good for an 11-year-old to win what was a decent enough race. And then he ran, subsequent to that, he ran at Nace in that big Colin White sponsor Premier Handicap. And he didn't run badly at all. Like for an 11-year-old to be running as well as he did off 90. So he really does seem to be pretty much as good as he ever was. The last time he ran over fences, which is a worry, he pulled up at Kilbeggan in June. So that's a bit of a concern. And his chase form would lead you to maybe since Cheltenham would lead to some doubt, but his flat performances have been very, very good. Ben Harvey gone over. I'd give him the nod. I imagine like these are the races now that he's kind of going to be targeting over fences. The races kind of for horses of his age. And he's no real negatives if he's he looks to be in as good a form as ever. So essentially, I suppose in his Cheltenham run last year he'd win this, and so you're just gambling that he'll show up and produce his A game.
Yeah, I suppose Ben Harvey going over is a bit of a pointer as well. I'd say he would have stayed in Fairyhouse if they weren't fancying Seddon, surely. I liked Dashel Drasher here, to be honest. Look, he's kind of an old favourite for a lot of people, I suppose, but he's back in the handicap company. I think the first time since January 2021 over fences, and he's off a £3 lower mark, I think, than he was that day when he won. He's a Grade 1 winner, fences and hurdles. He's like ultra consistent. He's always kind of up there in those staying hurdles in the UK, maybe falling a little bit behind the likes of a Tiupu in that stairs hurdle category, but still, like, he's still capable of winning the long distance hurdle at Newbury and running well in long walks and cleave hurdles last year. So the ability is definitely still there. He was third to Victoria last time when he beaten around 3 or 4 lengths. So the spark is definitely still there. Like you said, this is real competitive, but I think Dashel Drasher, like there's few in here, is one of those kind of old boys who hasn't really lost that sparkle yet. And yeah, I think 13-2, 11-2 probably isn't too bad of a price about him in the veterans chase. We'll go on to the next, the 3 o'clock, the Glenfarclas cross country chase. And we were kind of saying about not many Irish runners. This race is maybe the exception to the rule. There's plenty of Irish in here, but I think it's actually the French raider topping the betting in here. ICO Madrick, I think is how you pronounce it. He was with David Pipe, but now he's over in France. He's coming back to Cheltenham to try this. I think he might have won a listed cross-country race in France last time, but he's 7-2 favourite in here. Stumptown then next in 4-1 after his win over the cross-country fences at Punchestown. Mr. Coffee then is next. Mr. Coffee for Nicky Henderson, Nicky de Boinville, and a few more not far behind those in the betting. Do you bet on the cross-country races, Johnny? I can find them a little bit tricky myself.
Yeah, like I sort of would have bet on them in the past, but I've more or less stopped betting on them. And to be honest, though, they wouldn't really float my boat at this stage. Like, and they've gotten really popular. Like, you look at the horses here. Like, I know Mr. Coffee hasn't won in like 4 or 5 years, but like he has so much ability in good races. Chemical Energy, Delta Work, obviously, was a top class horse in his day. Cocoa Beach, really good handicapper. Fakir Didari, Stumptown, Chemical Energy. Like, so the Irish horses, at the top of the way, Stephen Gevray, these are very good horses. Vanillier, who was a very good horse in his day as well, a Cheltenham Festival winner. it is mad how popular the cross country. Because for me, it's a bit of a bit of a laugh of a race, or not a laugh of a race, but like a race that was kind of, you could take it or leave it. You could
Yeah, yeah.
go for your point, and they like to spot the difference. We had really good old stagers in the race, but not horses that were great. One horse got into it, and the standard of it has really gone up. Tiger Roll, obviously, I suppose, has been a big ambassador for it, but I could sort of take or leave these races, to be honest. I do think the betting is kind of notable though. Cocoa Beach, the last year, he was a hot favourite against Stumptown on the back of his unfortunate episode in Czech. But that race at Punchestown, again, just to show the standard of this division at the moment. Like, Cocoa Beach finished fifth in it, just ahead of Vanillier, and Solitary Man made his kind of bank stable race. Very good horse in his day. He wasn't right, but Stumptown won, fair enough. But like, Cocoa Beach was sent off a 6-5 favourite, and there's no way he ran his race, because he was travelling pretty well at the second last. He looked like he was going to win or give Stumptown a big race, and he basically just stopped. Like, and after the race, I was reading the race post this morning. He cuts on his left and right legs and lost a shoe. There's no way Cocoa Beach was at his best that day, and he's way bigger now in the bet. Like, you're probably going to get double figures. Karen Miller, very good value for his £5, and he seems in good nick. I'm encouraged the ground is softer. It looks like there might be a bit of rain in Cheltenham coming, because the softer the better for him. I give him a very realistic chance. I think you can put a line through the way he finished the race last day. Stumptown is the up and coming horse. He was very good, quite well back, but this is very competitive.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised to see Cocoa Beach double figures as well myself. Look, to be honest, I won't be having a bet on it. And that Punchestown, I suppose you want something here with a bit of experience. That Punchestown Banks course, I think it's kind of well documented. It's a lot tougher than the one around Cheltenham. It's hard enough to get around Punchestown, and you can often throw up a really weird result. Wasn't Cocoa Beach beaten by Singing Banjo as well at the festival last year? So yeah, ratings don't really seem to matter in these cross country races. I kind of stay away from them, maybe unless you're backing like a Tiger Roll at a good price at the festival, off even weights. But yeah, in this kind of race, I find it tricky. Maybe one I thought was overpriced though, 3x2. He's, like I said, he's a real bank specialist around Punchestown. He actually was second behind Stumptown in Punchestown last time. She was second. Where they pulled her rate now, I think she's rated 95 in conventional chases in Ireland, but the UK obviously rated her 127 here coming over. But look, she's got no weight in her back. She loves the cross country. She goes around Punchestown really well. She was kind of in a memorable battle with Singing Banjo with the Latouche at the festival last year. Look, it's not as much of a jumping test, so maybe she won't have that advantage over some maybe more high quality rivals in this. But I just thought 20-1, she's probably too big. But like, if I wanted to have a tiny bet in it, but I probably would just leave it off, to be honest with you. It's too difficult. But we'll go on to the last race on the Saturday or the Friday. We'll talk about, before we go on to Saturday's racing. It's the 3:35. It's a 3-mile handicap hurdle. You were talking about the skeletons in the first race we discussed, and they have the favourite in here again, 15-8 Dian's Quest, 13-2 Gowl Road, 13-2 Might Eye, and I think around 15-2 Thanks for the Help for David Pipe and JP in there. Dian Quest, I suppose, look, he was a runaway winner of a similar event at the November meeting. Had a couple of these in behind that day. He's up £10 here though, so it might be hard enough for him to back it up. Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm still going to go with him. He was so well back to him. I went 5-4. They didn't go mad hard in the race, and he just left Gowl Road for absolute dead. Gowl Road has gone up to 100. He's an £8 swing in it, but you're looking at the race. It's kind of hard enough to see him reverse the form. And what I like about Dian Quest is just he's had so few runs at this trip. Like, he won his maiden hurdle at Taunton on soft ground, and that was over 2 miles. He only tried kind of middle 2.5 miles subsequently a couple of times, but stepped up. I love the way there was so much money from the last. Because obviously they thought this horse wants, he's quite a stout pedigree. He obviously did want a trip. Having said that, there are some interesting runners in the race, like Thanks for Help as well, who ran well the last day, in fairness, in the same race. He's only got up £1. Kind of got a similar enough ride, and this race might actually be run a little bit more to suit him. He's definitely feasible, but he just Dian Quest looks a proper improver. Again, he's a sort of horse I'd be slightly worried about what his long-term plan is for the season. Will he be rocking up in one of the staying handicaps at Cheltenham? But £10 for me is fair enough in the last day, and his superiority was such that he should still be very hard to beat. But it is a competitive race. Might Eye, we all know well as well. He's definitely not without a chance setting back up and trip after winning the Bangor the last day.
Yeah, Dorian Crest was impressive, to be fair. I can see the case for him. But I just thought it was a bit of an eye-catching jockey book in there. Harry Cobden riding for Lucy Wadham on Zane Knight. I think it's his first time riding him. I just looking into the horse, like he looks like one maybe who could have a fairly progressive profile. He was actually a fairly good flat horse. He was rated in the 90s for Roger Varian. And for Lucy Wadham, like he's done really, really well. Only a 5-year-old, could still progress plenty. Like really consistent. For whatever reason, he disappointed in Haydock a few weeks ago. Pulled up there, obviously, but like they must be fairly confident to be after booking Harry Cobden here. I thought 10-1, not a bad price, and like on a line through Gowle
ground
Road.
maybe the last day, possibly ground because
Yeah,
it was, so, and I know he's won on
potentially.
the flat, but like he's a flat pedigree. He's probably his best forms on decent ground.
Yeah, but like even on a line through Gowle Road there, like he's not too far away from the likes of a Dorian Crest. Dorian Crest was obviously beat him the last day, but they both ran in that per Thames qualifier. Was it the October meeting where Gordon sent over that good horse, the Wall Park?
Yeah.
He ran well that day, like behind the Wall Park, and like the Wall Park was probably thrown in that day. Like Gordon's kind of talking about him potentially a Grade 1 horse. So I just thought saying like they're maybe interesting at an each way price, but yeah, I'd say Dorian Crest probably the worthy favourite for that there, 15-8. But we're going to go on to Saturday anyway, again for the ITV races, and the first race I think we're chatting about on Saturday is the 150. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the December Gold Cup will go straight into the big one. They really need to start thinking of different names for these races because it feels like there's a Gold Cup on nearly every month in Cheltenham. It's kind of defeats the purpose small of it. If it's a good handicap chase, it doesn't have to be a Gold Cup to whoever is naming these races, I'd say. But this is over 2.5 mile. We've got last year's winner, Fugitive. I think last time I checked, he was leading the market. Kind of had a pretty similar preparation to what he had last year. A nice run in the Paddy Power at Cheltenham before rocking on to this one for the December Gold Cup. But Madara, another really interesting one in there for the Skeletons. He's been moved around stables a little bit, but was a really good winner at the Dublin Racing Festival last year for Sophie Leach. Il Ridoto, again, the Paddy Power winner comes back. Gala, Stage Star. Plenty in here, Johnny. It's a real high-class renewal, I think. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, Madara is definitely an interesting one to start at. Like as you say, for Sophie Leach, beat Pat Dorrow at the Dublin Race Festival. I know that they took off the tongue tie and cheek pieces for that run behind Il Ridoto the last day. Cheek pieces go on here now. Fugitive just in behind on that occasion. So very, very interesting horse if the Skeletons can bring about a little bit of improvement. I'd probably just go with Fugitive. Like he, as you say, Emma, the prep for the race last year was almost identical. He was beaten 16 lengths behind Stage Star at Cheltenham. He's beaten 13.5 lengths by Il Ridoto in the race this year. Now that was his first one after a wind up, and it was he actually travelled well. He just kind of cut out in his first one backwards. It was a bit of a messy race for him. What was interesting for me was that he was sent off 28-1, considering he was a pound higher than his win in this race last year when he last ran. So, like, really, he shouldn't be anting like 28-1. So I'd say Richard Hobson has basically been training for this, and that's putting 2 and 2 together there. But like the fact that he's a pound lower a year later is quite remarkable. Like it really is. The British handicapper is very fair to you. He beat Il Ridoto in the race of Shorthead last year. I remember it was a really good battle up the hill. There wasn't much in it, but they were nicely clear of the remainder. I imagine this is a kind of a similar enough renewal. Le Patron is an interesting horse. Well, he was a good novice last season. Notably when he won at Sandown he won at Sandown at 11-2 when that was a race. There was a hot favourite in it. Only the second disappointed, but he really sort of hit form this time last season when he beat Colonel Harries and subsequently at Sandown. And he was good the last season, only 6 going on 7. So I'd probably go with last year's winner Fugitive. I just think it looks like this has been the plan for him, and to be running off a pound lower is quite remarkable. Very interesting to see how Madara goes in the bet.
Yeah, I was shocked as well to see he was a pound lower than last year's with that Paddy Power run. I watched back there this morning. It was very eye-catching, but to be honest, I can't get away from Madara in this. I watched that Paddy Power back again this morning, and I think the more you watch it, the more eye-catching he gets. Like Tristan Durrell obviously rode him that day, stable debut for the Skeletons. Harry was obviously riding the more fancied stable mate that day, but he kind of conveniently managed to lose his position kind of coming down the back straight there in Cheltenham, and he absolutely flew home with minimal urgings. That was his first time trying going out past 2 miles. Well, he might have won over 2-1, I think, at the DRF last year, but first time trying 2.5 miles anyway. And I'd say the Skeletons could have lined him up for this one. fairly well. Like I kind of urge anyone to watch back that one in the Paddy Power Chase. Like, you poke your eyes out. He actually won at this meeting last year on the next race we're going to talk about. I'd like to know the reason why he was changed stable. Like, obviously going from Sophie Leach to Carol Burke to Dan Skelton, he's moved around plenty, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him have plenty of success with the Skeltons, because they definitely know how to line one out for a big handicap. And yeah, I'd find it very, very hard to see past him. I think I liked him last year. Like you mentioned, that DRF run, he won that off 1-3-3, beating Pactero and Solness back in third as well. So yeah, I think his form as a novice was strong. And yeah, he could be a real fun horse for the Skeltons to have a bit of crack with in these handicaps. And yeah, I'd be really keen on him in this one, to be honest. But we go on to the next race, 225. I mentioned Madara won this one last year. Maybe not the most exciting race to look at anyway. Only 6 runners in here, so no each way betting. 5-2 Liberty Hunter for Evan Williams and Harry Cobden. 3-1 Master Chewy, who's for the Skelton, or sorry, not the Skeltons, the Twiston Davis, and Isser Dairy. I thought maybe it was an interesting one for Gary Moore in there, 9-2 as well. Did anything interest you in here, Johnny?
Yeah, it's another race that I suppose it really should have a bigger feel for, for the Cheltenham at this time of year. But interesting, third time lucky. His first run since leaving, or second run rather, since leaving the Skeltons. He ran okay the last year, but I do feel here that Master Shuey, like, you got to like the profile of him. And if you go back to his form last season, Emma, when he fell behind Gaelic Warrior Cheltenham, he definitely wasn't going to win that day, and he looked like he was coming under the pump a bit, but he was staying on. That was at the second last, kind of an unlucky fall. He jumped the fence fine. Maybe he was just getting a bit tired, but then he went an entry, and like, he get found at 50, a really, really good race in that occasion with Liberty Hunter, 11 lengths back in third. That was a hell of a run. And obviously you're kind of wondering then what you do going into your senior season. He ran behind John Bond at Sandown, and far too early to find out where he was going to go. But he's only a 7-year-old going into his second season as a chaser, and that novice form is really exceptionally good in the context of a race like this. And he has to give weight away, but he should. You'd imagine he might have a bit too much class for only 5 rivals in a race like this. And as I say, that Liberty Hunter form, in theory, he holds him. Albeit he's given him. What has he given him £10 on that run at Aintree? But he's had a couple of runs this season, and he should definitely have more to come. He's a horse that travels well in these races, really straightforward walk in the park, and he'd be one of my bets at Cheltenham anyway for the 2 days.
Yeah, he's definitely a classy one in here. Like you kind of said, plenty of these going to know each other fairly well. He met Isser Dairy last time, wasn't it, in Ascot, or the time before that for Master Chewy, sorry, but it was Isser Dairy's last one for Gary Moore. He's kind of meeting him on slightly better terms here, I suppose. Isser Dairy went up £4 for that one. I thought he was kind of eye-catching as well, though, talking about maybe quiet runs leading up to this, but he's run at Newbury after that Ascot run. Isser Dairy was fairly eye-catching. I'd say Niall Houlihan, was maybe thinking of another day ahead when he was riding him around. But yeah, he's got the cheek pieces on for the first time. I thought he was interesting for Gary Moore, but yeah, I was a bit wary of Master Shuey as well. I do think he's high class. Come back to that found the 50 form, it's hard to get away from. So yeah, I didn't have a massively strong opinion on that one. But we'll go on to the next 3 o'clock. The Albert Bartlett Novice Hurdle. It was first graded race on the day. Yeah, graded race. It's very strange having it this late in the card. I was a bit surprised. Normally you'd have that before the big race, surely. But anyway, we'll go on. Skyjack Hijack is definitely have a real fun horse for the yard. He's won 6 in a row now, I think, and definitely deserves to be stepping into this kind of company now. A runaway winner a few weeks ago again, but maybe not the highest quality grade 2, so he should have a good crack at it, is what I'd say. So he's about 9-4, 5-2 Clondaw General, 4-1 Western Light roughly, and I think the French rider there, JetBlue, is really, really interesting as well. His trainer obviously coming over for the cross country on the Saturday, and for the grade 2 on the Friday and the Saturday. Sorry, but yeah, he's an interesting one. But Johnny, what did you think of this?
Yeah, Skyjack Hijack. I can't say I've ever remember a novice like this. It's the novice. It's still in the calendar year of the start of the season, and he's won 6 races in a row. And this is bidding to be 7, and maybe he'll make all the run again. Just had too much stamina for Zanabat the last day, which was maybe not unexpected, but he's just progressing. Clondaw General is a very interesting runner. He when he won his point, he beats About Damn Time and Craigmore. That was an early in the year, 5-year-old maiden. So About Damn Time actually won subsequently, and Michael Goff, who I don't know much about, trained Clondaw General. Matthew O'Connor trained about damn time, as I say, one since. But then his debut for Kim Bailey, he just looked all stamina. The last day, it was only a 4-runner race at Worcester, and the market kind of found it very hard to almost find a favourite. There were sort of three of them, and the four of them were all sort of give or take roundabout similar odds. And Clondalkin generally just looks a horse who stays very well and well on top of the finish. Again, he's a lovely kind of stamina laden pedigree, and this wouldn't be a race that I have a strong opinion on, but he just looks like he's going to be a horse that will progress, and will love the hill as well.
Yeah, I suppose that's the question. You're kind of taking a chance on the likes of him, hoping he can maybe progress. Look, I'm no expert on French form, but I was just looking into that Jet Blue when I was getting ready for this. Like he's kind of a black type performer in France already. He won a Grade 3 National Hunt flat race, and then you kind of flick through the form and you say, geez, he was third in the Group 1, but the conditions of the race were a bit strange. I think it was for 4 and 5 year olds, APQS horses, so maybe it wouldn't take that too literally as being third in the Group 1 on the flat, but I thought, look, he was second actually last time over hurdles in RT, and I'd say the form of that race doesn't look too bad. The winner went on and won next time. He's kind of rated in the 150s in France, but look, how that translates to the UK form, I'm not too sure, but I definitely think he's an interesting one for the French riders there. In a Grade 2, that's maybe like a little bit of a guessing game, I suppose. Like you were saying, there's plenty of these with potential, but still have to prove it yet. But this Jet Blue is maybe one who's a little more battle hardened at that higher level of racing. And I just saw his last one in RT. He looked impressive, and the winner that day was a good horse, and he wasn't beaten too far by him at all. So might take a small chance with the French horse in that one, possibly. But we'll go on to the last race I think we're going to talk about over the weekend. We're going to get it all done nice and quick. The 335, the Mayor's Handicap Hurdle. A nice big field in here. 13 runners, and there's a really hot favourite in this one, 5-2 Joyous for Nicky Henderson and JP McManus. He's a long way ahead of the rest in the betting. I think you're going out to around 6-1 to find the next in the market. That's Georgie Girl for Philip Hobbs and Ben Jones. So yeah, she's fairly fancy, Johnny. Is she a little bit too short, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be jumping the gun to say she's fancy, Jet Emma. Like if you're fancy or don't fancy a JP McManus horse, we're recording this 2 days before the race, 2 minutes before the race. The time you wouldn't know whether the horse is fancy or not. But with respect to JP, I mean, if you look at JP's history with this horse, Joyeuse, she has a smashing pedigree. Dam's a half sister to Epiton, so he kind of knows the family well. But she cost 235 grand at Arcana in November 2022. And that was just after she won in France for, I think she would have been 3 at that stage for a trainer I wouldn't know anything about. But she's only won twice since, so she missed all of 2023. She won a small prize in Taunton, and then she finished third behind a good horse, Celtino, the last in Ascot. But like if you're trying to win the money back gambling on the horse, I mean, you have to get your money on late, and there'll be plenty of money needed to win back to 235 grand. But she's a very interesting runner. Steps up in trip. It's only her 4th career start. I mean, I'd be absolutely waffling if I were to say she's clearly well handicapped in what she's achieved. But on pedigree, she should enjoy the step up in trip. She's run off 119, which over in Ireland would be like 108, 110. So like for the money they paid for her, she really should be a lot better than that. Simple as that. She should be a lot better than that sort of that sort of mark. But I mean, I don't know. Would those kind of been ignored a bit in the betting? Very, very good juvenile for Gordon. Basically just kept winning. Was good the last day when we saw at Doncaster as well. That was a fillies juvenile hurdle listed race, and I wouldn't be totally ruling her out. She's been put in at a big price. She's only 4 obviously, but she loves hurdling, and she's stable's been in great form. But tentatively, I'd be with JP's horse. Keep an eye out for Holly as well in the race in the same colours. I wonder what the plan is with Holly. It's been a little bit disappointing, but if you go back to her form earlier in the season, she's feasibly handicapped. So very, very interesting to call the market here. Like Joyeuse, I generally don't like backing McManus horse on handicap table. She might be an exception.
Yeah, it's probably not a bad race to find something each way. You mentioned Wood. Like I was kind of with you at Woodrow there. I was surprised she was such a big price. Like serial winner last year. What did she win, 6 or 7 as a trio? So she's obviously tough and hardy, and she did all the winning really early in the season as well. She was running a fair bit. She won 2 listed hurdles, I think, in the UK as well for Gordon. Like you said, she was due to run a few weeks ago in Ferryhouse, so I don't think Gordon will be traveling her over here for the crack. Like she'll be ready to rock and roll. America 130, like you said, she's only a 4-year-old. She could still be improving. I'd say they were half thinking of going to the Budos last year, but I don't know if something happened to her or what. But yeah, I'd say she's not a bad bet each way now. Danny Gilligan on board, taking the £3 off. Like I said, she was going from strength to strength as a 3-year-old, and yeah, Gordon will have her ready to rock and roll here. So I think 14-1 is a bit too big about her, even though the Nikki Henderson one are in there, the favourite could be a bit better than our mark suggests, like you said. But I think we've covered all the ITV races on the card anyway for Cheltenham, so all the ones you'll get free on the telly. But Johnny, before we wrap it up, I'll ask you for the nap of the weekend for you in Cheltenham.
Yeah, we've gone through 8 races. I'm going to give Master Shuey as my nap, just for pure class in the handicap on his novice form in the 225 on Saturday for the Twist and Davies team.
Very good. I'm going to go for Madara in the big one on the Saturday. I just think, anyone who watches back that Paddy Power run unstable debut for the Skeletons can definitely line one up. So I think Madara will take a bit of beating in there. He was a high-class horse last year for Sophie Leach and should go on again for the Skeletons this year. But we'll wrap it up there. Thanks very much, Johnny. We'll be all back on, I suppose, Monday to review everything that happens over the weekend and all the news from this week again with Vincent on Monday. But for now, thanks for tuning in, and make sure and like and subscribe if you enjoy the content.